Hey guys! So, today we're going to talk a little bit about communication and something that I think it's really important. So let's get into it. Now, we're not going to cover all the things, of course, because this is a really big topic, but I want to touch on something that it's a small thing, but yesterday I had this I had this experience that I think illustrates this very well. So, for this to make any type of sense, we need a little bit of context. So yesterday I had been working on a feature. It was just a normal day, and one of my coworkers, one of my junior coworkers, had made a discovery in the master branch. And for the juniors out there who may not know that, the master branch is referring to a version control system called Git for the most part, where you basically have like the code base as it is when it's delivered to the users. And he had made a discovery. He had noticed that one of our linting rules for in this case it was for TypeScript, had been modified to not have the same behavior as it used to have. And so he posted a channel question about it. Okay, who has changed this rule? I thought we had this rule. And my boss gets into this conversation and asks, yeah, this is really bad. Like, who's changed it? We are supposed to have this. We have agreed on having this rule, right? And I kind of immediately, I go there and I look, and of course, it's me who's changed it. And I vaguely recall why. And it comes back to me, and I remember that I was working on this separate feature for a little while. It was a bit of a crunch situation. I was stressed because, hey, we needed to ship it very quickly, and we had I was on the same day. I was just hot fixing things for demo purposes for a big client, right? And the idea was that this branch, which was just supposed to be the separate thing, would never go into master again. But it did, because we had, you finish the work, start working on something else, and then somebody comes along and says, hey, can I merge this? And you don't think about it, then all of a sudden it's merged. And so we came to this point where I just, that's at least how I play these things. There's no point in denying it, so I just go out and say, yeah, that's my bad. I'll fix it. And then this depends from person to person. But then, as we're sitting there chatting, because all of this is happening over Slack in this case, and in comments and so forth, the discussion kind of goes into, you can imagine the sort of discussion that comes afterwards, and then I kind of take a beating and I say, or I get chewed out a little bit because, hey, this is a decision that we should all make together. We should not just arbitrarily do this, yada, yada, yada. And I get, as I said, a little bit chewed out for this. And so my junior coworker, he's messaged me in private, because he feels absolutely horrible now, and he apologizes and he says, I'm so sorry. I wasn't meaning to point any fingers. And I tell him that, it's okay, dude. You didn't do anything wrong. You pointed out something that was a flaw in the system or a flaw in the code. You did everything right. This is not on you. This is me who made a change that I shouldn't have done, or rather, this is a mistake on my part. This is not your fault, because the important part for me, to remember here, is that the junior is now in this. My coworker feels responsible for causing me pain and issues with my manager, but he shouldn't, because if I now punish him for pointing this out, he will feel discouraged in pointing out these sorts of issues in the future. And that's what we want that. And I told him that we want you to do this. This is important. This is not your fault. This is my fault. So after talking to him, I had a little bit of as I said, there was a bad tone between me and my manager. And this is the thing that I think is important. After that, we had this, at least I had on my part of things, I felt this tension. I felt this, how you sit there and you kind of go a little bit, I don't really like this person. You think nasty thoughts, and you start going into your own mental space, and you think about all the things that, you justify things, and why is this person always bashing me and not everybody else, and you do the human thing. And then my manager comes over and we talk about this a little bit, because in since we're already going to discuss something else. And he sits down next to me and we talk, and finally we arrive at this particular topic, and he says, well, I wonder how we could, Frederick, how can we improve this so it doesn't happen in the future? Because, I mean, I hope you understand, like, I wasn't angry or anything like that. I just want to, for us to have a high code quality. And maybe we can have some thoughts about how we can improve this in the future. And the tone completely changed, because we are now having a real discussion. We're not just talking over comments and Slack and so forth, where it's very difficult to determine the tone of what the person is saying. And so we start talking, and it turns out that everything was okay. It was in my mind, the thing was much worse than I thought that it had been. And just by taking the time to actually sit down and have a real conversation where we have full communication, because we humans, we communicate in so many more ways than just using words. The whole thing just deflated into this thing that had started out as a really bad day, and then afterwards it felt like a really great day. So that's what I want you to take away from this, guys. When you're in a collaborative environment, when you're working with several people like this, and you're committing code and you're all working together, and you make decisions left and right, if you ever get to a point where somebody calls you out like that, I mean, I do the same thing on my comments in the YouTube channel. It is vital for you to, when you sense this negative tone, to take the time to try to figure out if that's really the case. Because I've been in quite a few times, there's been quite a few times where somebody said something and my first instinct is, well, what the fuck is this about? And then we talk about it and it turns out that it wasn't so bad after all. So that's what's important here, guys. When you have code reviews or somebody says something or so forth, when you're working with your coworkers, if something doesn't feel right, take the time to leave your desk, go over to them and have a real conversation between two humans. That usually mitigates a lot of these issues, because what you don't want is to sit there and get pissed off or like get upset about something long term, or get a bad image of somebody else just because you thought that they meant one thing when in reality they were actually trying to say something different. Have a great day.